U.S. troops stationed in Europe are on high alert this morning as Russia moves farther into Ukraine. NBC News global security.
The Biden administration stance on sending troops
into Poland and into the West, and it's possible the U.S. Soldiers there would help out with that. And then also that is clear. Now, there is a remote possibility or control large swaths of that country or that fierce resistance from Ukraine.
Looks like an apartment.
Overnight, more signs that Russia's targeting civilians, stepping up their siege of the capital. Missiles have landed in the heart of Kyiv, slammed into a suburban apartment building.
Now, despite the bombardment, Kyiv is holding out against the Russian attacks. Ukrainian President Zelensky releasing a new message telling his
crashing into the street, killing at least one person and wounding several others. Another Russian missile striking a different apartment near the border with Poland, a NATO ally. There are concerns the conflict could escalate.
4 hours a day. Some have food and shelter. This one is packed with donations. You've got
Cautious, tentative signs and perhaps some optimism to try and end all of this. Amy?
Could use a little optimism. Ian Pannell.
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Look at this check for $160,000.
Russia is not sending any representatives to a United Nations court hearing.
This comes as Russia and Ukrainian leaders are scheduled to hold more peace talks today. That will happen at 9 a.m. Charlotte time.
And there's not been much to come out of the talks so far. Both sides are agreeing to set up evacuation corridors and deliver aid to civilians. This comes as the Russian military is increasing its shelling of Ukrainian cities. The Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S. is calling on NATO leaders to issue a no-fly zone over
this interactive map here. We can actually see just how far the Russian army has moved since the start of the invasion. The green dots you're about to see are. When we take a look at Kyiv, they are completely surrounded by fighting and casualties up here in the northwestern part of the city. But when we take a look at Kharkiv as well, there's fighting around there. We're going to move out and take you to the northeast part of that.
I know he's in action, and so every so often I just text him, "Are you alive?" And so far he's always said yes.
To be honest, I don't know what to do because I get my friend.
And the crazy thing is, a month ago, both of them.
Obviously that bad that you're having to do that, and I can't imagine for the two of them. Even though Joel said, things are fine.
I think it's safe to say that 2 weeks now into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it has not gone as smoothly and as easily as the Kremlin may have hoped. Broadly, we've seen the Russian military bogged down with logistical problems, their troops being stalled in convoys on roads as they try to lay siege to major Ukrainian cities. At the same time, the Russians have been apparently quite effective in shelling major cities, including Kyiv and Mariupol. So 2 weeks in, we see a campaign that is not decisively a Russian victory, but it seems to be wreaking havoc on the Ukrainian population and on its citizens. I think not just world leaders in levying these historic sanctions against Moscow, and is that Vladimir Putin encouraging them to take to the streets, to do everything that they possibly can to resist these Russian invading forces.
Не відступають, не здаються, не зупиняють свого спротиву. Вони кричать окупантам «Йди додому».
Resisting that because they do not want to get their countries pulled into a direct conflict with Russia.
Let me be clear. Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine.
I think that neither side is going to yield in the short term.
Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine.
I think that neither side.
In the besieged city of Mariupol, there is no time to give the dead dignity, no respectful burial, thrown instead into a trench filling with bodies, one after another, in scenes we thought were consigned to the middle of the last century, but happening now in a European city.
The only thing I want is for this to be finished. I don't know who's guilty, who's right, who started this. Damn them all, those people who started this.
1,200 have been killed in attacks ripping apart the city's streets and homes, launched by one of the world's most advanced militaries, reducing living in this seaside resort town to a struggle to survive. In another resort, this one in Turkey, Russia's foreign minister arrived smiling for the highest level talks since the invasion began. But after just an hour and a half, they ended with Ukraine's foreign minister emerging sounding frustrated.
My impression is that Russia is not in a position at this point to establish a ceasefire. They seek a surrender from Ukraine. This is not what they are going to get.
Then the Russians turn. Sergei Lavrov is a sharp operator who chooses his words carefully. But listen to this and wonder what planet he's on.
We're not planning to attack other countries. We did not attack Ukraine.
You said some time ago that Russia had no intention to invade Ukraine. I think today you said that Russia did not invade Ukraine when it clearly has. Why should the Ukrainians take you seriously, with all due respect? Why should they believe a word you say and the rest of the world?
This is not about Ukraine. This is about the aggression against anything Russian. Interests, religion, language, culture, safety. And of course now, the reaction of the West to our actions, very aggressive reaction.
Russia has sent its foreign minister here to talk peace, but without a mandate to discuss ceasefires or a new humanitarian aid corridor, claim the Ukrainians. It's hard to see what these talks have achieved. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Antalya.
Does the UK or our allies have specific intelligence that Vladimir Putin is preparing to use chemical weapons, or are we extrapolating this simply from what he has been saying?
Well, clearly I can't comment on intelligence, the UK government of measures. Of course, we've already sanctioned over 300
Crypto.com Visa card, a metal card, powered by crypto.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sandra Bookman.
And I'm Joe Torres. The White House announced new sanctions against Russia, joining the European Commission and several.
Russian leader Vladimir Putin is staging military forces about 20 miles outside Kyiv, though it's believed some Russian forces are disoriented, not anticipating the mission would be this difficult. Ukrainian President Zelensky
territories, and we will not give away a single inch of Ukrainian territory.
From UN Secretary General, the warning was dire.
Further escalation of the war, whether by accident or design, threatens all of humanity. The prospect of nuclear conflict, once unthinkable, is now back within the realm of possibility.
And yet, as Russia's brutal campaign of violence against the people of Ukraine intensifies, worries that the war could escalate into a global conflict are growing. Following reports that Russia asked China for military and economic assistance, something the Kremlin denies, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with a top Chinese official Monday in Rome.
It was an intense 7-hour session reflecting the gravity of the moment.
We will not allow any country to compensate Russia for its losses.
It would be a very significant and meaningful.
Julia, let me begin with you. You were watching this coverage.
The group you earlier mentioned, human rights group, and I do hope that in the next hours we'll know where she is, because she spent several hours with the police right there,
Immediately after this happens on screen, it could be that Vladimir Putin was watching that tonight when this happened. Does he pick up the phone? Do the executives go into full panic mode? What happens? Who gets fired? What up the phone? Do the executives go into full panic mode? What happens? Who gets fired? What's the Putin reaction?
Well, first, it's worth mentioning that Ekaterina Andreeva, the news show host who was there, whom we just saw, she's one of Putin's favorite propaganda
peddlers in Russia. And so, yes, it can't be excluded that he was watching when the whole thing happened. And I'm pretty sure that even if he was not, when I was fired from national television in Russia, as far as that was